James, as we were going to the break, I was asking you or making a statement that is the dynasty in jeopardy. Not is it over? There's a lot of people have made statements like, that it's done. Nick Saban is dead. Nick Saban's prime is past. I'm not anywhere near making that statement. I'm just asking the question, is the dynasty in jeopardy? Is it? What's your thoughts?
I tell you what, the last time we broached this topic on one of these shows, it was after the 2015 loss Ole Miss at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And speaking of pouncing on opportunities, you had folks like Clay Travis and Barrett Sallee that you can hear, and I'm sure will be on later this afternoon. I bet he would love to answer this question too, Martin. And Colin Cowherd as well had some thoughts on it. So I don't think we've actually played it on this show before, Martin, but I think this is an opportunity that maybe we need to remind ourselves as far as a montage that I made about this. This was right after the 2015 national championship win against Clemson, when all of those folks that I mentioned kind of reminding you what they thought of Alabama's dynasty coming to an end after the Ole Miss loss in 2015.
Alabama's dynasty is dead. We were talking about how long is this dynasty going to last? Well, 2 years and two different national champions later, we're wondering, did the dynasty end?
The dynasty ended when Chris Davis went 109 yards on the last day of November in 2013.
I asked you this because a lot of people are starting to talk about it. Is it the beginning of the end of the Alabama dynasty?
I always thought it was a boring dynasty. I loved USC.
Alabama's dynasty?
I like Texas.
It's a bit boring.
It's kind of boring. But I sincerely believe this. It's over.
Okay. Was Alabama's dynasty boring because it was so much better? Was it because Alabama's so much better than everyone else? I mean, that is such their dynasty. Their dynasty is boring. In other words, they're so dominant that they're boring. So that's what I'm asking you. Is the dynasty in jeopardy? There's a lot of things going on that I think could impact this dynasty. But Christopher Walsh of SEC Country was talking about it, and he was talking about it from the standpoint of looking at Alabama and the Clemson matchup, looking at the Alabama-Clemson matchup, and could this be the thing that brings the dynasty to an end? Could this be the thing that brings Alabama's dynasty to an end? I don't know. But that's something you have to ask. If Dabo Swinney can pull off another win, a lot of those guys said things out there about the dynasty coming to an end, but there was no heir apparent. There was no heir apparent when the statements they were making. Ole Miss, losing to Ole Miss, that's one thing. Losing to Ole Miss is one thing. But Ole Miss was in no threat of becoming the one that replaced the dynasty. Losing to Auburn. Auburn was in no threat going to become the next dynasty. So when all of those statements were being made, there was no heir apparent to the dynasty. But now we find ourselves in a position where there's an heir apparent to the dynasty. And that heir apparent is Clemson. So that's why I'm asking, is the dynasty in jeopardy? Is the Dynasty in jeopardy? Let's bring in Eric from Atlanta. Eric, welcome into the Blitz, man. What's on your mind?
Hey, if it was up to you guys, we would be dead and gone. I tell you, man, it's just, is the Dynasty in jeopardy? I got to put a little asterisk by it because, okay, outside, if you think about this, outside of winning national championships, okay, for the University of Alabama, I want you to just think about, even in this season alone, everything that the University of Alabama is accomplishing, okay? Look at the coaches that we do, the recruiting. So, yes, we do need the championships. Of course, we love those. We want those. But, I mean, everybody hates Alabama until you need a coach, baby. You know what I'm saying? Look how everybody. I mean, they probably want our GAs. They want our water boys. They want anything and everything to do with Alabama because you know why? Because Nick Saban has figured out. He didn't figure out that formula. So we want anything that has anything to do with Alabama because they got that formula, and we want that formula. So we want anybody, right?
Right, and let me tell you something. Winning is not just something that happened at Alabama when Nick Saban got here. He just perfected it.
Correct.
And the reason I ask is this dynasty over is for a dynasty to be over. To me, there has to be someone ready to take that spot. And if you look at the last 7 years, there's been 2 coaches with 10-plus wins and dominance year in and year out, and that's Alabama and Clemson. And when you look head-to-head, they've ended the last 2 seasons, and one of them is going to have a chance to establish themselves again. Either Alabama beats Clemson and goes into that national title with a chance to get back on top, or Clemson beats Alabama. But guess what Dabo Swinney did? Go look at Dabo Swinney's coaching staff and see if he doesn't have a mix of the guys who won with him and the guys who a couple guys who learned from under Saban. And so Dabo, I don't know if you know this, Dabo has his own process. They just don't talk about it. But him and Nick Saban are so much alike. They just have different approaches in terms of personalities. So that's why I'm asking, Eric.
Oh yeah.
You can't, to me, all those other idiots that was talking about the dynasty being over because an Ole Miss beat us. Come on. Or Auburn got a lucky kick. No.
Yeah.
For a dynasty to end, there better be somebody out there that can, because there's nobody else that I've seen right now that presents a challenge to Alabama. Alabama may not win a national title, but there's nothing out there that tells me there's a team that says, you know what, I'm going to be there every year you get there and you're going to have to go through me. Well,
that's correct.
There's one that's saying that now.
Yeah. So, and it also goes to show you how. I mean, I'll paint the picture for you when they did the Heisman ceremony. So the Heisman ceremony, and they're interviewing all the coaches. They got the panel up there, so they got all the head coaches of the 4 teams. And what's so funny is that they all want to talk to Saban. They all get their 5 minutes. But Saban ends up talking like 30 minutes.
I didn't get to see it.
Why do you think that is?
Because he is college football. I mean, as much as you want to hate him, everybody knows that when he talks, it's like the old E.F. Hutton commercial. I can get something from this man, and every chance they get, ESPN is brilliant. They know that even though he may be hated by the rest of the college world, there's nobody more respected. So when they put him on, they're going to get big time hits on whatever his content is. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hey, now, Eric, but you still got to answer the question before I get to JPC. Is it in jeopardy? Not over. Is it in jeopardy?
It's not. It's not in jeopardy.
Okay. If Clemson wins.
If Clemson wins
and wins the national title, is the conversation now, is Clemson in 2018, will the conversation be, is Clemson the new dynasty?
The thing is, I still say no, just because they still have a lot. Think about all the work that we've done ever since 2009. I just think because we are the blueprint. I just think there's a lot more work to be done, and that's not. I don't have the glasses on. I don't have the Bama goggles on, but I just think they got to do a lot more work. That's all I got to say, brother.
All right, thanks, Harry. All right, thanks. Roll Tide. Welcome back in to the Blitz on Tide 102.9, 100.9. The Blitz, the hardest hitting hour of Alabama sports talk on the radio. We're talking about, is the Alabama dynasty in jeopardy? I'm not saying now as far as Nick Saban losing his edge, as far as Alabama not having the talent and the ability, as far as Alabama not being one of the better teams, no, that dynasty is not close to being over. But are there some factors, James, that could cause this dynasty to be in jeopardy? One of them being Clemson. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. But listen, James, I have a whole little spread here of why the dynasty could be in jeopardy. It's a positive for Alabama fans in some senses, but it's also a negative. Let's see what JPC has to say about the dynasty being over. JPC, welcome into the Blitz. What's on your mind, man?
The dynasty's over, man. It's over. It's over.
Okay.
If they say it enough, Martin, sooner or later they're going to be right?
Well, wait.
You can even hear it in their voices. Like I was telling James Hardy off air, they're saying it, but you can tell in their voices they don't really believe it.
Oh, well, I'm asking the question. James did a great job finding that audio that he had done. And I'm gonna play it when I get off with you. I'm gonna play that again. But the difference between that and now is the team that beat them was Ole Miss. Auburn on a kick 6. I mean, yeah. You're right. That was like hoping it was over.
Yeah, praying out loud.
Right. But what I'm asking is, for there to be a dynasty, for a dynasty to come to an end, there's usually something or someone that brings it to an end.
Really?
Except in the case of the Roman Empire.
Well, let's check this out for a second. What about the Lakers and the Celtics of the 80s? There was 2 dynasties at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just going to be a dynasty that's sharing time with another dynasty. I mean, for a dynasty to be over, just going 2 years without a title, you can't really consider that a dead dynasty, can you?
Right. That's why I said jeopardy. I didn't say it was over. I'm saying right now there's been no other conversation for 10 years, right? Since 2009, who's been the clear king of college football?
Alabama.
Okay. Who's the clear king of college football right now?
Alabama.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even if Clemson wins a championship this year and they win back-to-back, they still haven't done what we've done over an extended period of time. But
lately. But the conversation didn't start with Nick Saban after his second one. It started after his first one.
Oh, of course, because we got a history of it, and Clemson doesn't.
Well, but Dabo Swinney for the last 7 years has been right on par with Nick Saban.
You think so?
Yeah, go back and look at their records.
He just hasn't been winning championships.
Huh?
He just hadn't been winning championships like Nick Saban. Saban's won what, 4 out of the last 8?
But that's the point. But he built it from nothing when Nick Saban came into a behemoth. Nick Saban woke up a sleeping giant. Dabo has built a giant. So this collision course that we see the last 3 years has been on track for 7 years. Actually, Nick Saban's dynasty began on the back of Dabo Swinney, or on the back of Tommy Bowden. When Alabama
is our dynasty's never over, Martin.
Huh?
It's been going on since 1925.
Hey! Our dynasty was in the toilet, bro. When Nick Saban came.
Oh yeah,
we were losing the lava.
Our dynasty was in the toilet when Bear Bryant came.
Right.
During the Ears Whitworth there, everybody has their valleys, but the real dynasty is always re-arise. Clemson ain't really, they don't have the history that we have over the entire college football history is all I'm saying.
And that's what makes it so impressive, JPC. Does that not make Dabo equal or greater than Saban?
No.
Why?
Dabo will never be better than Saban.
But you just said Nick Saban is doing something that how many people have done at the University of Alabama?
Saban is he's already won 4 national championships. Now, Dabo,
where did he win them at?
If Dabo wins 3 or 4 national championships, then we can come back and talk about it.
Where did he win them at?
Where did he win them at?
Saban.
Saban won one at LSU, and he's won the rest at Alabama.
Okay. Who else has won national championships at Alabama?
Bear Bryant, Gene Stallings, Frank Thomas.
Keep going.
Wallace Wade.
Do you see that we have more coaches that have won national titles than other programs have national titles?
That's true.
And so would that not make Dabo at 47 years old, 20 years Nick Saban's senior, 20 years younger. Nick Saban couldn't do this at Michigan State.
But he done it at LSU.
He didn't. Look at what LSU has.
LSU was in the toilet, right? There's one thing that Saban's done that none of these coaches have done. He's won a national championship at 2 different schools.
But Dabo's been at one school, and at 20 years from now, let me ask you this. Do you think Dabo could leave Clemson and go somewhere else and do the same thing?
If he went to Alabama, yeah.
So
I don't know if he could do it anywhere else.
He did it at Clemson.
I don't know if he could do it anywhere else. Clemson had won a national championship before, actually, back in the 1980s.
So you're telling me Dabo Swinney couldn't go to LSU and win a national title?
I don't know if he could do it in the circumstances that Saban happened upon after Jerry DiNardo. That's all I'm saying.
Where has some of Alabama's best recruits come from?
Alabama's recruits?
Yes.
I mean, our recruits come from all over, don't they?
No. Where some of our best recruits come from? Help me out, James.
Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, Texas.
Louisiana.
I remember Eddie Lacy coming from LSU, if memory serves me correct, Martin.
Yeah, and who else? I mean, there's what's that big left tackle? We had a DB,
Cam Robinson.
Yeah, then we have a couple DBs. Ha. I mean, no, Ha may have been from Florida. I get them mixed up. JPC, you and I, we're both. Listen, this is not beating a dead horse, but both of these guys are great, and that's why I say it's Jeopardy. The conversation changes if Dabo Swinney wins. That's all I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, I mean
the conversation.
All you're saying there is that hey, maybe we're going to have to share the dynasty limelight.
That's what else. Jeopardy means. I don't think Alabama's going anywhere. These other teams, these other guys, when they say the dynasty's over, they're thinking Alabama's going somewhere. No, I'm just saying.
Over. We can't make the playoff every year for dynasty.
That's right.
Over.
That's right.
We got to go 6-6 like Florida State or something.
And you got to do it more than 1 year. You got to be bad for multiple years for a dynasty to be over, in my opinion.
Yeah, sort of like our dark days with DeBose through Mike Price and whatnot, right?
Right. And so what I'm saying is when you look at this thing, when you look at it, the conversation changes if Dabo wins because they went head-to-head 3 years in a row. Mm-hmm. And Dabo would be 2-3. I mean 2-1. Okay?
Right. I can see your argument there.
With back-to-back, and he could argue that he could have won the first one, and Alabama could argue they could have won the second one. So either way you look at it, be 2-1. But watch this. This collision course has been happening because they're the only two programs with 10-plus wins, I think, dating back 7 or more years. Do you realize that Dabo has – I mean, he's been right there.
Well,
waiting.
If the dynasty's going to end to somebody, it couldn't end to a better person. I mean, I'll take it from Dabo any day.
I agree with that. I'm just throwing it out there. Hey, listen, And let me tell you, I got reasons why it could be worse for Alabama, and Dabo's not the biggest threat.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
You have to listen, and this may have to go over to tomorrow as well, because I got quite a few things that I think could cause it. But anyway, thanks JPC for that conversation. Let me get to James real quick. Thank you, sir.
Brother,
Anytime. Yeah. All right, James, welcome into the Blitz, man. You want to talk about this dynasty?
Yeah. I don't see it going anywhere, but I see your point with Dabo and Clemson. If they beat us and win it all this year, you're going to have to start talking about them a little more.
I mean, you see what I'm saying, James? When for a dynasty, to me, for a dynasty to be over, one or two things have to happen. Someone has to replace them, or they have to fall off. Okay, and I don't see, until Nick Saban leaves, I don't see Alabama falling off. Okay.
Oh, I agree.
But I do see the potential for Alabama to come back to the pack. And if it comes back to the pack, this is what think about this. Right now, Jimbo Fisher, Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, and Dabo Swinney are the only national championship winning coaches in college football. And guess who owns a winning record against all of those guys except for Saban? Dabo. Now, I can't remember his exact record against Florida State, but he's owned them as of late. He's dominated Urban Meyer, and he's went toe-to-toe with Nick Saban. And he used to dominate Bob Stoops, who got out of the game, who was the other national championship winning coach. He's 47 years old. All the other guys are in their mid to late 50s or older. That's the point that I'm trying to point out here. Where we talk about, does Nick Saban have a few more years in the tank? Dabo has 20 years before he gets to Nick Saban, or 19.
I agree. Dabo will be a name that lives on for a long time. Hopefully not.
Not at our expense, right?
Yeah, hopefully we kind of, as much as I love the guy, I kind of want to end a little bit of that here end of the month. But
yeah,
I think Dabo Swinney is probably the only coach that Alabama fans would be okay losing to.
Yeah, and listen, I played with Dabo. I love Dabo, but I'm not. I do not pull for Clemson to win.
Oh, definitely not.
I don't mind playing them again. But yeah, I definitely lean Tide when they go head to head. I think he understands that. But
the one thing that has impressed me the most with Dabo is the quarterback play. I mean, there's virtually no drop off. I mean, you go from elite to elite to elite, and it blows my mind how he's able to recruit quarterbacks.
Yeah, he went from Taj Boyd to Deshaun Watson to Bryant, and every one of them is a little different. But they all play. They all play at a high level, and to me, that's the sign of a dynasty up and coming. Not only because if you go to the NFL rosters, man, there's a guy the last 3-4 years that's sending as many players into the pros as Alabama, and that's Clemson. And they're sending skill positions, and then they come back the next year, and you're like, "Good gracious! I thought those guys graduated." But
I thought Clemson wouldn't have not made the playoff this year.
Yeah,
then I'm like, how does he find these quarterbacks?
Here's the thing: he already has one more. I think he has one on staff now that was a top player, and one of the top recruits in the country is already committed. But it's not just that. He's able to develop them too. So, and he's changed offensive coordinators, and they still develop. So, there you go. I mean, he has a process, a system in place that he's going to be the thorn. He's going to be the arch nemesis for the rest of Saban's career, and then be positioned to definitely be the king of it. Hey, James, I got to run, but you got anything else for me before I go?
Oh no, that's it, man. Just roll Tide.
Roll Tide. All right, thanks, James. Hey, listen. I had even got into the reasons for the dynasty to potentially be over. We talked a little bit about Dabo Swinney and can he be the one, but there's a lot of other reasons for this to be over. And we'll cover this, carry this conversation over to tomorrow. James, because you're looking at recruiting, the grind, other teams coming in, the NFL, internal issues potentially, coaching departures, etc. All of those things go into whether this dynasty will be over.